Check it.
What is up, guys? Welcome to another video, and today we are back with some more Need for Speed 2017 videos, and today we're going to go ahead and talk about my overall wish list for Need for Speed 2017. So we're going to go ahead and look back on Need for Speed 2015, talk about the good points, talk about the bad points, and then we're going to go ahead and talk about the features I want to see in Need for Speed 2017. Now, in the future, I might go a bit more in-depth on some of the specific features, but today is kind of an overall video. Don't know how long it's going to go for, maybe 10 to 20 minutes or something across those lines, and we're just going to basically talk about Need for Speed, the current state of Need for Speed, and everything else surrounding the future games. So without further ado, let's get straight into today's video. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is look back on Need for Speed 2015 and look at the good points and what it did right, and you know, some of the really key features which made Need for Speed 2015 so good. So number one, return to customization. Pretty obvious why this is a huge thing. It's a feature which people have been asking for ages in the Need for Speed series. So to see that it's finally returned is an amazing feature. If you don't like customization, you don't even have to use it. It's just there. It's completely optional. But the amount of depth which is added with the customization into making the car feel like your own, into the amount of, you know, possibilities and variables, you know, every other car looks different, especially with the wrap editor being in there as well. You can really do basically anything with your cars, and that is just and again, it's a very good step forward in the right direction for Need for Speed. We can see how well this game has really taken to you know, the fans in terms of reception. You know, the fact the teaser trailer got so many more views than Rivals did, and it was up like in the first week, it got like more views than the Rivals one did. You know, that I think that alone says how much the return to customization alone, you know, really mean what it means to Need for Speed. So that's my first good point, obviously, is the huge return to customization, and not just like the licensed customization too, with the Rocket Bunny kits, the Liberty Walk kits, you know, all the rims and all of it. It's just a very good addition, a great point, one of the Need for Speed's stronger points, and definitely one reason why I still come back to Need for Speed today. The next huge point is obviously the story mode. Now, the story was kind of a bit of a controversial pick. A lot of people thought it was overly cheesy, but for me, that's kind of what Need for Speed's story has always been. It's always been over the top, it's always been cheesy. There is a few downsides to the story, which I'll talk about in the bad point section of this video about Need for Speed, but you know, for the majority of things, I've got to say the return to story was a very good thing. You know, the fact we hadn't really seen a concrete story in Need for Speed again for a very long time. You know, we saw one in Rivals, but Zephyr was, you know, the whole Zephyr storyline wasn't really a proper storyline. To see a, you know, a story with a plot and, you know, a goal, it's something again which it's a welcome return. I'm glad they've done that. In addition to that, they've also added in the free updates, which again have been amazing. You know, everything from the Speedless update to the Showcase update, you know, they were all very good. And the best part about all the updates is that they were free. So, you know, no players were segregated from, you know, playing the DLC packs. If you wanted to play drag mode, there wasn't that issue of, oh, I can't afford the DLC pack, so I can't join in with my friends, because everyone had access to it. Obviously this has its downsides, because the DLC may not be as extensive as it could with funding. You know, the DLC it has lots of downsides to it as well as good points. It kind of balances out really, but for me, you know, the free updates were a huge thing, and they were a very good thing. I loved how they managed that. I would have liked it to seen it to go a bit longer. It would have been nice if it lasted a few more months, but again, since they're free, they haven't got any funding. They weren't getting paid to do that. You know, they were only getting money from the game sales, so it's kind of a situation where they have to balance everything out, and I think they did a good job of balancing it out. The next thing is the car list. People like to hate on Need for Speed's car list, but what they don't realize is it's a very big car list for a Need for Speed game. Obviously, it doesn't rival Horizon's car list, it doesn't rival, you know, Gran Turismo's car list or whatnot, but for a Need for Speed game, it's huge. So to put the car list in perspective, Rivals barely had 40 cars, as where Need for Speed has 50 plus customization. So, you know, in Rivals, where, you know, you couldn't do any customization besides, you know, changing colors and stuff, you know, it barely had 40 cars, where this had over 50 with the customization and all the tuning and everything else that comes along with it and all the new modes. You know, I think people really underestimate how good the Need for Speed car is. Obviously, it's lacking in the hot hatch area and the classic muscle area, but they really hit the nail on the head trying to include everyone in the car list. The chances are, if you're a car person, there's going to be a car in Need for Speed 2015 which really, you know, hits your liking in terms of, you know, your cars. You know, they've got everything from the Japanese guys, you know, to the American guys, to the European guys. You know, there's all types of cars in the game, and I think they did a very, very good job. Obviously, you can't please everyone, and, you know, people are forever going to talk about how the 350Z wasn't in Need for Speed, but the car list is very, very good, and I still stand by that. You know, I said that at launch, and I'll still say it now. The car list is a very, very good car list, and you've got to keep in mind that Need for Speed's never really gone over, you know, anything ridiculous like Forza has. Forza's got like, what, 300-400 cars? Need for Speed's never been like that. You know, Need for Speed has always been around the, you know, well, Underground 2 had 30 cars, and then, like, you know, Rivals had like barely 40 or whatever. So there's really never strayed across 70 cars, really, maybe 100 at most for the Shift series. But, you know, Need for Speed's never really gone and had a huge car list, and especially for this game with the amount of customization parts, they can't just do that because otherwise the customization would be lacking because the car list is huge. So that's my opinion on the car list. I think it was a huge good point, a plus point for the game. The next point I'm going to go ahead and talk about is the tuning. So as you guys know, the drift and grip slider is a huge aspect in Need for Speed 2015. And for me, it's a huge plus point. Again, just the fact you can tune your car and make, you know, you can have the one car, say you've got an R32. If you put it full grip, it's going to handle completely different to full drift. Now, there is some balancing issues which need to be addressed, and again, we'll talk about this in the later section of this video where we talk about the bad points of Need for Speed 2015. But overall, it's a great start for the tuning aspect in Need for Speed. It's simple, you know, you don't have to worry about, you know, what PSI your tires need to be at. It's very, very simplified, and that is what Need for Speed is all about. It's an arcade racer. It's an easy racer which you can just jump on and play. You know, you don't have to worry about, you know, little things like your spring stiffness and that kind of stuff. But, you know, it's just a simple slider, and it works very, very well. Again, a few things do need to be addressed, and we'll talk about it in a minute, but overall, tuning is a huge plus point for me. And then lastly, just to kind of quickly go over Need for Speed 2015, is the return of drift and drag modes. People do not realise we've not had drift modes in Need for Speed in ages. Obviously, Most Wanted 2012 had it, but that was DLC. This is the first time we have had a drifting in Need for Speed, you know, as a mode in a very long time, at least 4 or 5 years. I'm off the top of my head, you know. Amazing, you know, return. And then in addition to that, obviously drag mode got added later on. Although, again, it can be improved. I feel like there's certain things which are missing from the drag mode. I understand they were on a time limit because, well, they had to put it out for the update, but, you know, regardless, I can kind of go past that because it was part of a free update. But drift modes are definitely something which cannot be, you know, frowned upon. It's something we've not had in ages, and now to see it's returned in multiple variants, whether it's Gymkhana, Toge, or normal drift trials, it's an amazing thing. So I've got to say, the return to drift and drag modes are huge, and obviously you've got your normal circuit and sprint races, which again, you know, a great thing. Just more variety is never a bad thing for me. So I've got to say, huge thumbs up to the return of drift and drag. So now we're going to go on to the bad points about Need for Speed 2015 and my problems with the game, and some things which I want to see addressed in the future, you know, game, obviously in 2017. So the first thing is the physics can be slightly weird sometimes. Not really sure why, but it seems like the car wants to drag itself to the side sometimes. It can be kind of addressed by just tapping the handbrake, or maybe it depends what situation you're in, but it can be addressed by the player, but they shouldn't really need to. I do feel like the physics can be a bit weird sometimes. The cars can feel like they're driving themselves. You know, I'm not the type of person to moan about the fucking cars, you know, the wheel spin. That's something very, very stupid in my opinion. But the fact the car kind of drags itself to the left sometimes, or the right, depending on obviously which way you're going, is something which needs to be addressed, definitely. You know, having had over like 600 hours in the game now, it's an issue which, again, it can be overcome by the player, but I just feel like it's something to do with the physics. It's not, you know, it's not my fault the car's going to the left. I'm not asking it to do that, and it doesn't make logical sense for it to do that. So the physics do need a bit of you know, a bit of cleaning up, I guess. Nothing too huge, just a bit of cleaning up, a bit of tweaking to make sure it's perfect for the next game. And then kind of branching off that, brake drift needs to be nerfed, or, you know, in the opposite way, you know, having brake drift off needs to be buffed, because at the moment it doesn't matter if you're drifting or if you're racing, you need brake to drift on to be competitive, and I don't think that's personally fair. I would like to see that be changed. So if brake drift could be nerfed, that could also be a very, very good thing. Just making it so, you know, grip cars are actually competitive, and, you know, you can turn brake to drift off and still do as well as someone who has got brake to drift on. So again, just, you know, kind of cleaning up the physics and making sure, you know, everything's balanced for the next game is huge. The second bad point I have is always online. Ooh, the fact you can't pause the game. I don't understand. Well, like, again, I don't think this game needs to be always online. I can kind of see where they're coming from, because so they can see the statistics and stuff, you know, what we're playing with, and it obviously helps behind the scenes. But on a face value, the game doesn't need to be always online. It's something which I would rather not see in the next game, having an offline option again. It just kind of, it makes it so the game is open to more people. I don't think it's necessarily an issue, especially not for me. If you've got a PS4, an Xbox One, or a PC, odds are that you've probably got an internet connection. But again, just not being able to pause the game is one of the main reasons I would not want to see it always online. It's a very, very minor issue, but it's kind of a huge thing. Not many games, you know, like, especially when you're playing solo, I just think that having the option to pause the game, say someone comes to your door and you need to answer the door, say you've ordered a pizza and you need to go downstairs and pay for the pizza, but you can't because you're in the middle of a race. Just a bit of a nuisance, really. So always online and the pause button, those are two kind of my gripes with Need for Speed. The next thing is the netcode. I'm not sure about you guys, but Need for Speed 2015 is very, very laggy, especially when playing with friends. Forza kind of suffers from this issue sometimes, but nowhere on the level that Need for Speed does. Very, very laggy. You know, sometimes when you're on PvP, you'll be playing with friends, that it will look like they've rammed you on your screen, but they wouldn't have on their screen. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not a dev. I can't say that it's down to this or this or this. I'm assuming it's down to the netcode and the way the game is coded. So I've got to say, just working on that, making sure the next game isn't so laggy, especially in PvP, because it really does pay a huge factor to that. Because again, when you're playing with friends and it's on your screen you're being rammed, but on their screen they were going straight, it's just a bit unfair. It makes the PvP less enjoyable. So that's one thing for me, is definitely just brushing up the netcode, I believe is what it is. And then obviously PvP itself, I definitely believe PvP can have some work done to it. Again, it was in a free update, so there was no funding behind it. It was something that was done completely off their own back, and I can appreciate that, but there's some definite work which can be added. So firstly, adding in PvP ranks, like the crew has it. The crew has it, so, you know, there's bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and whatever. Having some ranks like that would be really, really cool, along with rewards for those ranks. So maybe you get a car, you get a customization part, you get extra money bonuses, something across those lines. That could be pretty cool. As well as that, having a non-contact mode could be quite cool, and just varying up the modes a lot. You know, having a cops and robbers mode, you know, where one side's the cops, one side's the robbers, and there's money in the middle, and you need to get it to either base. You know, just having some more modes in the PvP area, having some more fun modes, King, you know, having Crown, or the King mode, having Infected in there, that could be pretty cool, and that could work really well. But again, if you're gonna do that, you need to brushing up, you know, the lag on the game, because again, it's very, very laggy when you're playing. If you're playing King and then on your screen you've hit someone, but on their screen there hasn't, that's gonna have an issue when you're playing the game, and the game has to decide who it's gonna give the King to. So PvP can have some work done to it. I would like to see some further progression with that. You know, private lobbies again for PvP is a very huge thing, a very a missed opportunity for Ghost, I believe. So having private lobbies in PvP could be a huge thing. Again, lack of customization for some cars. The Ferrari has this for obvious reasons. Ferrari don't like their cars being touched. But having that lack of customization, say for the Volvo was one that at the start which didn't have much customization, just making sure in the next game they kind of capitalize on that. So make sure all the cars have adequate customization. Don't include, you know, any more Ferraris if they aren't going to let you put customization parts. Keep the ones that are on there because you've got the models and people are going to want to use those cars, but don't, you know, put more in if you're not going to be able to put Liberty Walk kits on. It just doesn't make sense for a game based on customization. My next point is about the story. There's no antagonist. You know, in this game everyone seems to be friends, and you know, that's cool. The concept, it's cool, but it doesn't really work when you put it into an actual game scenario. We need to see an antagonist, you know, someone to beat, a goal there, you know, just a figure which we can beat in the game. That's something for me I want to see. You know, someone like Razor, someone like Darius, someone like Rio from Pro Street, someone, you know, even the undercover storyline. The undercover storyline had a there was no clear antagonist at the start, but the more you'd play, the more you'd realise that there was a story unfolding. Undercover, in my opinion, has one of the best stories in a Need for Speed game. So having something like that where it maybe tells a more serious narrative could be a very cool idea, because again, not many Need for Speeds have kind of dabbled in that aspect of things. So having maybe an undercover like story where things are actually serious and it's like a TV drama, that could be pretty cool. And then my last bad point is the police. I've talked about this many times before. The police are dead. The AI, they're just very dead, very clueless. So seeing some improvements in the police, seeing a lot more police. Again, since you're always online, you can't really have 20 cops pursuing you, because otherwise, imagine if you were doing a race and then some guy was coming towards you and he had 20 cops behind him. That would not be a good time. So maybe they can flush that out with the always online, but having a huge cop pursuit, I want to see, you know, big 20 people pursuits. I want to be able to total the police. I want to be able to, you know, do loads of things. I want to be able to see SUV rhinos come full pace at me, you know, kind of similar to how Most Wanted did it. Brushing up the cop storyline, the outlaw thread, you know, it's again a very huge thing. I feel like that was a huge letdown in Need for Speed 2015, because outside of the scripted events which the police would feature in, the police just didn't have a challenge towards them, unless you got a car which was literally stock, like a stock Golf, and then went out and tried to race them. But again, you shouldn't need to do that. So in terms of Need for Speed 2015, those are the good and bad points. A very mixed bag. Overall, Need for Speed 2015 is still one of the better Need for Speeds in my opinion. I think it's one of the best we've had in a very recent memory. And then if we go ahead and remember all of them, it's definitely in my top 5 for me. A lot of people are going to disagree. A lot of people might agree. That's just my opinion. Everyone's entitled to their own, and that's mine. I think it's definitely in my top 5 favourite Need for Speeds. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and talk about the features I want to see in Need for Speed 2017. You know, brand new stuff, or maybe stuff which was in this game which could be tweaked. So we're going to go ahead and get into that section of the video now. Yeah, let's go ahead and get straight into it. So first thing, get rid of Always Online. Kind of talked about that before. Just get rid of Always Online. We don't need it there. It doesn't need to be there. Having a solo mode and a multiplayer mode separate would be a great thing. Do it how Undercover did it. So, you know, you put into the world in solo, and then if you want to go ahead and go into multiplayer, you can. And that's how Horizon 2 did it, actually. You know, just get rid of Always Online. It doesn't need to be there. Without Always Online, it will make it so you can have much more open police pursuits, and it just gives you more freedom as well, not from a player standpoint, but again from a developer standpoint. It allows you to do a lot more things in the world without worrying about player collisions and whatnot. So get rid of Always Online. Doesn't need to be there. Generally with Need for Speed 2015 or 2017, sorry, it just needs to be a general continuation on the foundations which have been built for Need for Speed 2015. The assets are there now. They don't have to rebuild all the assets, because that's what they had to do with Need for Speed 2015. You know, it was a completely brand new game built up from scratch. They had to do everything again. Now they've got a basis to build upon. So basically Need for Speed 2017 needs to be an advancement on the last game. So getting rid of Always Online is a huge aspect of that. The next thing, a bigger car list. You know, the car list should be bigger than the last, and, you know, adding fan favourites like the 350Z, like, you know, classic muscle cars like the 69 Camaro, hatches, you know, the R33 GTR, cars like that, you know, just general cars which we've been asking for ages is a huge thing. I want to see that come into the game. As for specifics, people have been moaning about the 350Z for so long. So I'm going to say add the 350Z in, add some classic muscle cars into like the 69 Camaro, and, you know, other, the Chargers and whatnot from the old and, movies, like, the Fast and Furious Charger, add that kind of stuff in. The hatchbacks, add really low-end hatchbacks. I would like to see, all jokes aside, a Corsa C in there. I'd like to see, some Peugeot 107, some really junkers, absolute junker cars that you can get for like £400 on like Auto Trader. Really junked up cars is what I want to see in the car list. And then obviously on that, an advancement on what's already there. So a lot more tuners, a lot more supercars, a lot more, modern muscle cars. So just an advancement what's already there. I would like to see the car list hit 100. I think it's possible, adding on to what we already have, and especially with the DLC plans, which they might have in 2017, I think it could work really well. And we will talk about DLC later. I've got an interesting thought on that. Not quite the same as Theo's if you've watched his video, but it's kind of along the same lines, so we'll talk about that in a bit. But anyway, that is my opinion on the car list. The next thing that we need to discuss is the customization. So obviously we want more customization too. We get a bigger car list, but also going to want more customization for all those cars. So more generic parts. I want to see more Ghost parts, get parts that are made by Ghost Games themselves. They've got an amazing concept team which can make some amazing kits, so to implement those in the game would be really cool, as well as that obviously more licensed kits. If the 350Z was to be in the game, having the Rocket Bunny 350Z would be pretty cool, and the Liberty Walk Hurricane, that kind of stuff, and then also just more general parts. So a police scanner, we've talked about this before in previous videos. I would like to see a police scanner which you can buy in the store, and obviously you can buy better ones. So you've got your level 1 police scanner going up to level 5, and level 5 will actually tell you the position of the cops on the radar, as with the level 1 will only flash or something across those lines. There's lots of ways you can do that police scanner concept, but that's kind of what I'd want to see. And then in addition to that, there's a lot more police, orientated parts you could have, and that kind of leads to its own video, which I could make possibly if you guys wanted that. But more customization and as a whole generally is definitely a must. Improved physics, they need to sort out the weird physics. They need to balance it out. They need to make sure, and this is kind of a balancing act, not just the physics, but they've got to make sure that there isn't going to be an RSR or a Hurricane in the next game. They need to make sure that all the cars are equal, and then depending on obviously the tune, that should be the deciding factor on whether a car is good or not, is the tune. And then obviously different cars have different characteristics, but there shouldn't be one car which reigns supreme, like the Hurricane does for drift and like the RSR does for circuit racing. So improved physics and balancing of the cars and the tuning, so brake to drift as well. I guess that kind of comes under that bracket. This isn't the next point I'm about to say. It's not something I would personally want to see. I don't think a day and night cycle is personally for me. I like the fact it's always at night, but just to include everyone's been asking for it, so what, include a day and night cycle. Lots of people want it, so what, just give it to them. It takes away from kind of the illegalness, driving at like 12 o'clock in the afternoon. It's just like, it doesn't really feel that illegal, but if done right, it can definitely feel illegal. I'm not, again, I would like to see it at least maybe sunset to, to nighttime. Maybe a 24-hour cycle is a bit pushing it. I don't know, that's just me. I think it feels a lot more illegal when you're doing it at nighttime. That's what she said. Anyway, with that being said, day and night cycle is just something that should be in there. The community's been asking for it, so you've got to deliver, really. Whether I like it or not, the fact people want it, it's kind of enough for Ghost. I mean, it's an overwhelming amount of people that want the day and night cycle in there. Same with the 350Z. Although it seems like people are just getting a bit moany about it, they still want it in the game, so you've kind of got to include it. As well as that, the next one is something I definitely want to see, is a dynamic weather system. I don't mind it always raining. I don't mind going into different parts, and then obviously the rain changes, gets more heavy, depends on where you go obviously, but I would like to see a dynamic weather system, so I think Rivals had it. It might not have had it. I might be wrong on that one, but a dynamic weather system. So you've got your storm environments, you've got your rainy environments, you've got your clear sunny environments, fog, all that kind of stuff. All of the the weather spectrums. I want to see everything on there. So a dynamic weather system could be pretty cool. Again, kind of talked about this before. A PvP system, an upgraded PvP system with ranks and rewards, similar to how COD used to be, and similar to how Battlefield works and Destiny and all those other games. As well as that, I'd also like to see a kind of class system in the game. So Forza has it, the crew has it, you know, obviously the crew has its numbering system, and then Forza has its lettering system with like, I think the top one's X class, then it's P class, then it's R class, and then it's S class, and then it's A class, etc, etc. Having something like that would be pretty cool, just so you can kind of separate the cars. So you can actually have PvP like playlists based on the class of the car. So you can have like a C class PvP mode, and then you can have a B class PvP mode, an A class PvP mode, etc, etc. Something like that would be pretty goddamn cool. I'd like to see the inclusion of a class system. Again, it makes it a bit more fair, and it just makes more cars, you know, it makes it more varied when you actually go into PvP, especially for kind of like a C class car, because again, you can't get say an RSR, for example, in C class, or at least I wouldn't think you could. So it kind of opens up different opportunities for that. Obviously, like the RSR and the Hurricane, I want to see them as cars in the next game, but just not as OP as they are. And you know, even if they were, this would kind of avoid that kind of scenario for some of the playlists, because obviously for C class there's going to be a whole different array of cars compared to C class, if that was going to be a thing. So having a class system would be pretty cool. The next one is no wrap limit. Currently you can only have 50 wraps stored. I don't know why that's the case, especially since it's always online. You'd think it would be unlimited, but the next one needs to be unlimited. It can't have a wrap limit. 50 is not enough, especially, you know, when you're someone like me, or say Jay, for example. I know he's had this issue where he only does wraps, so when he hits the max limit of 50, it's a bit annoying for him, especially considering all his videos are literally, you know, rap based. For me, for someone who just generally plays the game a lot, I would like to see the limit either pushed up to 1,000 or made unlimited. You know, it doesn't really need to be there, I don't think. So having that gone, and a continuation on that, seeing more search options for the wrap, you know, kind of sharing system. So having the option to search by description name, having the option to search by gamer tag or PSN ID or origin ID, something across those lines just would make the search system a lot more fluent and a lot more easier. And then obviously just kind of better management of the wraps themselves, because at the moment there's a lot of porn wraps on the Need for Speed store, which you see if you just go ahead. There's a lot of ones at the top on the most downloaded. It's like, get rid of all these white things to see what's underneath the wrap, and it just ends up being dicks. So getting kind of just patrolling that a bit better, and you know, having better you know, kind of systems to block inappropriate wraps and search for wraps better and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of it for the wrap side of things. The next thing we're going to go ahead and talk about is the map. Now, the map as it is very, very good. There's a few kind of areas which I'd like to see more of. A drag area, so maybe whether that's an airport or a drag strip itself or something across those lines, that would be really, really cool to see. An empty area where the cops aren't going to bother you, where you can literally just max out the car. I'd like to see that. Also, in addition to that, I'd like to see tighter city areas. At the moment, there is a few little kind of little city areas. I would like to see it so it's a very kind of New York-esque kind of place. A lot of gridlock roads where, you know, it's very, very tight. You can take immediate left turns or immediate right turns. That could lead to some really cool cop chases if the cops were improved in the next game. One thing again I would like to see is unlocking the map gradually. This was something that was a very, very big trend in older games. You know, Midnight Club did it, Burnout did it, a few other games did it. Well, Burnout not so much, but you know, you get my drift. You know, unlocking the map gradually is something which I would like to see. It adds a bit more progression to the game, and then you could open up online after you've unlocked the map, and that could basically make it so there's people who have actually played through the game online. It kind of does restrict it in a way, but I'm sure there's ways of getting around that. But unlocking the map gradually, or maybe you just start in one area of the map and then you go to certain other areas of the map. In Need for Speed 2015, you kind of did that, but you know, obviously different threads started going to different areas, and you ended up just kind of going everywhere at one time, sort of thing. So you know, unlocking the map gradually, or maybe just going through certain areas at different points, kind of similar to how Most Wanted did it, where you obviously unlock Camden and then you unlock Rockport and that kind of stuff. That would be pretty cool. And then finally, my last kind of suggestion for the map is to have more shortcuts. Not many shortcuts you can take in Need for Speed 2015 at the moment. So I kind of would like to see a few more shortcuts in the game, and I want to see big, long shortcuts. the types of shortcuts which are hard to do, but if you do, you're gonna win the race type shortcuts, you know. And it kind of just, it opens it up again to the user. If you play more of Need for Speed, you're going to be better at it because you're going to know more of the shortcuts, and you know, it just makes everything a whole lot easier and a whole lot better. So having more shortcuts in the map available, so you can obviously take those in races or even in police pursuits, just going around there in police pursuits, that could be pretty cool. My next again suggestion is better cops. We talked about this before, but you know, different cops for different heat levels, helicopters, you know, I want to see Rhino and SUV cars come towards you. I want to see Corvette cop cars, all types of things, you know, GTR cop cars like undercover. I just want to see it a bit more radical, you know. I don't want to see it rivals, you know, on the rivals level radical, but I just want to see it to be a bit more radical, kind of like Most Wanted, Carbon, Undercover, etc, etc. My next thing is better AI. I think, you know, the AI aren't bad, they just need to be harder. Even prestige mode, it's just, I want a bit more of a challenge. I think the best way to go around this is, you know, have an easy, medium, hard and extreme setting before you go into the race, or maybe set that right at the start before you go into your career mode, and then have the whole career either extreme, hard, medium or easy, or maybe you can change it in the settings or something across those lines, and then just making it so that AI are more aware of where you actually are, because again, that is an issue which could be solved. My next suggestion is more modes. I would like to see Speed Trap return, I'd like to see Lap Knockout return, and I'd also like to see Endurance Races return. We kind of saw the Endurance Races with the Throwback DLC pack which we got, which was Eddie's Challenge and that one, and all that kind of stuff, with Dead Calm. Dead Calm was a 4-lap race which lasted quite a while. Having a few more of those Endurance Races would be pretty cool. I think Lap Knockout is something which can easily be implemented, and I feel like, I don't know why this kind of just disappeared, because it was genuinely a really good mode. You know, it's kind of classic, it's a classic Need for Speed mode which I would love to see return. And then obviously Speed Trap, the crew kind of did its own variant of it, but nothing comes close to what Need for Speed did with their mode, so having a Speed Trap mode would be very, very cool indeed. My next suggestion is a grittier setting, both in terms of the storyline and the soundtrack. Now, I'm going to do a video on the soundtrack in the future. I'm actually going to give exact songs I think should be in the game, and then obviously you guys can go ahead and comment some, and then we can get a whole discussion going on that video. So I'm not going to go too much in depth on that. I will say I want to see kind of more grime, you know, more rap and grime, like grime artists like Skepta. I think that could work really, really well. I want to see a lot more trap. I think trap is the modern day, you know, kind of it's the modern day electro, you know, music that we had in Underground and Most Wanted, that kind of stuff. So having trap artists, especially kind of supporting, you know, smaller trap artists, could be a really cool thing for Need for Speed. It could give them a good image as well. So having some trap artists in there, having a bit of rock as well, a bit of metal. You know, some people, you know, thought, well, in my opinion anyway, I think Need for Speed and metal do have a good place, and if you select the right songs it could work. But anyway, I don't want to talk too much about the soundtrack, because again, we're going to have a video about that in the next coming weeks. But it definitely, in terms of the setting, you know, I want to see it just be not as friendly as it is in Need for Speed 2015. Again, I've talked about this many other times before. I feel like Need for Speed 2015, it feels like it's accepted. You know, you're an accepted street racer, and you know, it doesn't really feel illegal in the story. You know, outside of the story, it's really gritty and really, you know, mean. But then when you listen to the soundtrack and the story, it kind of just goes against that. So having a grittier setting, having it more raw, I think is the best way of saying it. Having the story a bit more kind of adult themed. Now, I'm not talking like fucking going into strip clubs and looking at strippers and all this bullshit. I'm talking in the sense that just don't make it as kiddie, you know, don't make it as, oh, we're gonna go ahead just do some drifts. It needs to be more in the sense of, you know, stealing cars. You know, Undercover did it really well, you know, when you were stealing cars and you were being illegal and you were being part of a crew, that kind of thing. Even the crew did it quite well, you know, that kind of sense of it being gritty and illegal. So that's definitely something I want to see. Again, difficulty setting, I mentioned that earlier on. Create a decal, actually, going back to the wrapper editor. I would like to see some type of create a decal option. Forza has it, and it also saves time. Like for me, for example, on my R32, I've got a hippo. I've got the hippo I've got in my logo, and that took 2 hours to build. Now, if I wanted to do that on each individual car, it would take 2 hours depending on what car I was doing it on. But if there was a create a decal option, I could create it in the decal, and then I could use it on whatever car I want, and I wouldn't need to recreate the whole decal. So having that option could be really cool, and then obviously sharing those decals could be, again, something completely different. You could have people who make legit like NOS logos or Falcon logos in different colors and stuff, and that could be shared, and then you could download them or maybe even buy them off a storefront. That could be pretty cool, you know, with in-game credits. So that could be pretty cool. And that is basically it for create a decal. My last point is DLC. And this one, which is, it's a very touchy subject, but I think the way I'm going to propose, it's a very good way which they could do it, and I think it would work best for Ghost 2, you know, getting the best of both worlds. So, you know, the fan satisfaction's going to stay up, but you also get a bit of money every 3 to 4 months too. So I'm going to explain what I mean by that now. So initially, I do think free updates should stay. However, I do want to see some paid stuff over time as well. So free updates, they should stay, and they should be a monthly occurrence, just like they were, you know, before Ghost pulled the plug. I do still want to see that be a thing. And then as for the paid stuff, I want to see that every 2 to 3 months, and I want those to be huge expansions, you know, and I don't want them to just be, you know, a car pack. I don't want it just to be a customization pack. I want it to be a full-on kind of like expansion pack. So you've got a bunch of cars in there, a bunch of customization parts in there, maybe a few more modes or something across those lines. Just, you know, just a general big expansion. That's how I want to see it. However, free updates should still go on in the background. Now, the paid DLC will allow those updates to have much more depth, because they actually have funding which goes towards it, which again is a huge thing. And whether you like it or not, free DLC will never be as good as paid DLC, just because there is no funding behind the free stuff. If there was free stuff alongside the paid stuff, it would help the free stuff, because there's money going towards that as well, because they're getting money back from the paid expansions, and then obviously the paid expansions are going to pay for themselves because people are going to buy it, and especially if they are good DLC packs like we've seen with Need for Speed 2015, it's just not really a bad thing. It could work very, very well. So that's how I think they should do the DLC. I don't want to see car packs, I don't want to see customization packs. I want to see big, maybe not expansions, maybe expansions is the wrong word, but, you know, just big update packs every 2 to 3 months that, you know, entail loads of cars, loads of customization and that kind of stuff. Maybe a new storyline, some, you know, more progression, that kind of thing, you know. Maybe like an Eddie's challenge sort thing if for one of them, you know, that kind of, it's something across those lines, if you get my vibe right now. That's kind of what I want to see from the DLC. I do think paid DLC needs to be a thing, otherwise they can't you know, do it for a prolonged period of time. I would like to see this go for a year at least, you know, in terms of DLC. And I think if there was paid DLC, it would make sense for them to do it over a year period. And that's my opinion on the whole DLC period. I don't want to see them do car packs. I don't want to see them, you know, do customization packs. I don't like the way that is done in most games, and I don't think they could do it, you know. I have never seen anyone do it right like that, you know. If they did these paid expansions along with the free updates, kind of like how Midnight Club did it really well. You know, you got South Central, you got the map, but to get the story and to get all the cars and to get all the other external features, you had to buy the South Central expansion. So again, something like that could be pretty cool, and that's how I think they should do the DLC, and that is how I think generally they should make Need for Speed 2017. Sorry. Again, there's a lot more. I could have made this video. I could have made this video 2 hours if I wanted to. I think 40 minutes was kind of a good kind of a good time period to have it for. I could have gone on for days and days and days about the good points and bad points in Need for Speed 2015. I could have gone on for days and days and days about the features I want to see in Need for Speed 2017. But those, as an overview, is basically what it is. Now, I'm going to continue to make these types of wishlist videos, going more in depth on my ideas. Like, for example, the soundtrack. I'm going to give you specific songs and specific genres that I would like to see, you know, for the police scanner, you know, for the customization and stuff. I can make separate videos on that, talking about actual, like, how it should work, the theory behind it, you know, the costs and stuff of those parts in game, in terms of in-game credits and that kind of stuff. I'm gonna really try to hone in on this, because again, if you're going to give suggestions to them, the best time is now, because they probably haven't, they're probably not too deep into development of Need for Speed 2017. So that is what that's kind of what I'm trying to aim for in these next few, you know, months, is try to make a lot of these videos, you know, giving good ideas, and try to get a discussion going in the comments, because I feel that's very important, including you guys, because, you know, it's all of our game, you know, and to get your guys' voices heard is very, very important to me too. So definitely go ahead, leave a comment down below. What did you think of my list? Did I miss anything out? Do you guys want to see more stuff in here? You know, off the top of my head, I know I missed out. I never talked about having police chatter on the game, you know. So like, say you're going around a corner, you're causing havoc, and the police catch you up, and in older games they'd say, oh, we've got a blue Lamborghini going down the A45 or some shit. You know, they don't say that in Need for Speed 2015, but if that was in Need for Speed 2017, that could be really cool. And that's one example of one thing which I would like to see, which I didn't talk about in this video. But you know, that's the general premise of what I want to see in this game. You know, there's a lot of things you can say, but that's the general premise of what I want to see. So again, if I missed anything, make sure to go ahead and comment down below, let me know, and that has basically been it for today's video. So again, if you enjoyed, hit the like, subscribe. I will see you guys in the next one. You guys have been awesome. Stay safe and peace.